It started with a whisper, then a shout. "You can't do this." My voice, normally so calm and measured, cracked with a raw, desperate edge. A low, guttural growl rose in my throat, a sound I didn't know I was capable of making. HOA President Karen stood before me, a razor-sharp smile cutting across her face, framed by a perfectly coiffed blonde bob. "The bylaws are clear, Miss Emerson," she purred, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "Your structure is non-compliant." A crew of contractors stood behind her, their eyes shifting nervously between the two of us. A giant, yellow excavator looming menacingly in the driveway, its metallic arm poised like a praying mantis. What right did she have to come here? To my home, my sanctuary, and threaten to rip it all down? This wasn't just a structure. It was my life's work, my grandfather's legacy. It was the custom-built, historically accurate Victorian greenhouse that took me 2 years of sweat, tears, and a small fortune to restore. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic, desperate rhythm. I could feel the blood draining from my face, a cold, empty feeling creeping into my stomach. A flash of the past, a memory like a film strip, flickered in my mind. The day I moved in, Karen had been so welcoming, so charming. She'd brought over a plate of her famous lemon squares, gushing about the neighborhood and how lucky they were to have a new neighbor who was so invested in preserving its unique character. I, a naive architect recently returned to my hometown, had believed her. I'd even shown her the blueprints for the greenhouse, a detailed, meticulous plan that honored the home's original 1900s aesthetic. She had oohed and awed, promising her full support. What a fool I was. I had a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach, a low thrum that grew louder with every condescending word she uttered. My friend and neighbor, Michael, a kind-hearted lawyer who'd warned me about Karen's reputation, stepped forward. "Hold on, Karen. You can't just send in a wrecking crew. This is a clear overreach." Karen's smile tightened, a venomous snake preparing to strike. "Mr. Peterson, this is a private matter between the HOA and Miss Emerson. Unless you have legal standing, I suggest you step back." The contractors shuffled their feet, clearly uncomfortable. This wasn't the simple job they'd been sold. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The sound of the wind chimes on my porch was a gentle, mocking melody against the mechanical hum of the excavator. "The bylaws," I said, my voice now low and steady, "state that any additions must be approved by the Architectural Review Board," which I did. The plans were approved by the board on June 15th of last year. I have the signed and dated document right here. I held up a crisp, legal-sized paper, the official HOA letterhead staring back at her. Karen's face didn't falter. "That document is not valid. The board has since rescinded its approval." Her words hit me like a physical blow. Rescinded. Without a word to me. My head reeled. Michael looked at me, a silent question in his eyes. He knew, just like I did, that something was terribly wrong. I felt a hot flush of anger rise from my chest, burning its way to my cheeks. Rescinded. I never received any notice. I never received any communication to that effect. Karen laughed. A short, sharp bark that made the contractors jump. "We sent a certified letter. Miss Emerson, I'm afraid your failure to receive it is not the HOA's responsibility." She turned to the crew, her voice gaining a commanding edge. "Proceed." The excavator's engine roared to life. A deep, earth-shaking rumble that seemed to shake the very foundations of my home. My grandfather's home. I felt a suffocating pressure in my lungs, an almost primal fear taking over. It was happening. They were really going to do it. But then, a new voice, a calm, authoritative voice, cut through the noise. "What seems to be the problem here?" Karen, an older man, Mr. Davies, a quiet but respected member of the community, emerged from his home across the street. He was the one who taught me to garden, who told me stories of my grandfather and his greenhouse. He was the one who had been so excited to see it restored. Karen's composure wavered for a split second. She hadn't counted on a witness. This is a simple matter of a bylaw violation. Harold, she said, her tone less confident now. Miss Emerson's greenhouse. Her greenhouse was approved. Mr. Davies stated simply, walking over to stand beside me. I was on the architectural review board. I saw the plans. I signed off on them myself. Karen's eyes narrowed. A cold, calculating look taking over. You're mistaken, Harold. The board voted to overturn that decision. Mr. Davies, a man of few words but absolute integrity, looked at her directly. The board cannot overturn a decision without a majority vote. The last meeting was 2 weeks ago. The only matter on the agenda was the annual budget. We didn't discuss anything else. I would know. I was there. So were you, Karen. And you didn't bring it up. The air grew thick with tension. The excavator's engine sputtered, then died. One of the contractors, a young guy with a hard hat, whispered to his foreman, "Dude, this is getting weird." Karen, flustered for the first time, stammered, I can get the minutes from the meeting." Michael stepped in again, his voice now a low, dangerous rumble. "Save it, Karen. I've already done the research. The board meeting minutes from the last 5 years are all archived online. Public record. There is no mention of a vote to rescind approval for Miss Emerson's project. This is a fraudulent order. You have no legal basis for this." He pulled out his phone and tapped the screen, holding it up for the foreman to see. "I have the full meeting minutes right here. There's also the matter of this." He handed the foreman a printed email. It was an email from Karen herself, addressed to the contractor, promising a significant bonus for completing the demolition expeditiously and without a fuss. A wave of stunned silence fell over the street. The truth, ugly and raw, hung in the air like a storm cloud. Karen's face, once a portrait of smug superiority, was now a kaleidoscope of emotions: shock, panic, and finally, a deep, incandescent rage. She stared at Michael, her chest heaving, a vein throbbing at her temple. You can't prove that," she hissed, her voice barely a whisper. "I have a right to privacy. That's a private email." Michael's laugh was cold and sharp. "It's a private email sent to a third party to illegally demolish someone's property. That's conspiracy to commit a felony, Karen. It's also tampering with historical property, a federal offense. Remember, I'm an architect, too. I registered this project with the Historical Preservation Society the day I started. And that bonus, it was paid for with misappropriated HOA funds. I've got the bank statements, too. I've been watching you, Karen. I've been waiting for you to screw up this badly. So, what are you going to do now? Call your husband to bail you out?" "Oh, wait. He's the one I'm filing the lawsuit against for embezzlement from the HOA fund. The one you signed off on. And I'm an architect. But I also happen to be a forensic accountant in my spare time. You should have checked." The color drained from Karen's face, leaving it a sickly gray. She stumbled backward, her hand flying to her mouth, a small, choked gasp escaping her lips. The sound was pathetic. A mouse caught in a trap. The contractors were already packing up, their faces a mixture of disgust and relief. The foreman, a decent man with a thick mustache, gave me a small, apologetic nod before climbing back into his truck. Mr. Davies patted my shoulder, a look of quiet triumph on his face. Michael stood there, his hands in his pockets, a grim but satisfied expression on his face. The predator had become the prey. The bully had been brought to her knees. I felt the tension finally leave my body, a shaky exhale that was more a sob than a breath. I looked at the greenhouse, still standing, perfect and whole, a testament to my grandfather's memory and my own perseverance. I wasn't just an architect. I was a protector. I wasn't just a homeowner. I was a warrior. Karen, trembling and defeated, finally turned and fled, her heels clicking against the pavement like the sound of her own crumbling world. She didn't look back. She just ran. The silence she left behind a profound relief. The neighborhood, which had been holding its breath, seemed to exhale with me. What do you think, readers? Was it right for me to use every weapon in my arsenal, including my secret profession, to expose her and bring her down? Or should I have handled it differently? What's the line between justice and vengeance?